My name is Marina, and at 34 years old, I never imagined I'd be standing in this hotel lobby about to destroy the two people I loved most. Just 30 minutes ago, my perfect world shattered when I caught my husband and best friend in an elevator. Now, 500 guests are waiting upstairs at our company anniversary party, including investors who built our empire. In exactly 5 minutes, I'll walk onto that stage and serve them both a revenge they'll never forget. Before I tell you how I caught them red-handed, let me know where you're watching from. Please subscribe if you believe betrayers should face consequences, because what I'm about to share will show you exactly why sometimes the best revenge is served immediately. Now, let me take you back to 30 minutes ago when I thought I had everything. You know, I used to think my life was one of those success stories people dream about. Daniel and I weren't just married, we were business partners who built a $50 million tech company from our college dorm room. 10 years of marriage, 10 years of growing our innovative app company that revolutionized how small businesses manage inventory. I was the vice president of marketing, the force behind every successful campaign that made us a household name in the tech world. And then there was Rachel. We met in second grade when she stood up to a bully who was picking on me. 27 years of friendship. She was my maid of honor, the person I called at 2 a.m. when my father died. The woman I'd chosen to be godmother to the children Daniel and I were planning to have. She knew every secret, every fear, every dream I'd ever had. That evening was supposed to be perfect. Our company's 10th anniversary party at the Grand Meridian Hotel with 500 guests, including every major investor, tech journalist, and business partner who'd helped us reach this milestone. I'd spent 3 months planning every detail from the champagne selection to the video presentation showcasing our journey from startup to success. Daniel had been acting strange lately, sure. Late meetings that weren't on the calendar, weekend conference calls with clients I'd never heard of. His phone suddenly had a passcode and he'd angle it away when texting, but I trusted him. Why wouldn't I? We'd built everything together. He knew my computer passwords had access to all my accounts. That's what real partners do. Right, Rachel had been around more often these past 8 months. She'd developed this sudden interest in our company events, volunteering to help with planning, showing up at investor meetings she'd never cared about before. I was thrilled. My best friend finally taking interest in the empire we'd built. She'd even started dressing more professionally, trading her usual casual style for designer dresses and expensive jewelry. I should have noticed when she started asking detailed questions about our finances, about the company structure, about who owned what percentage, but I thought she was trying to learn, maybe thinking about starting her own business. I spent hours explaining how I'd used my inheritance from my grandmother to secure 52% ownership, how the prenup protected both Daniel and me, how we'd structured everything to ensure fairness. The party was starting in 40 minutes. The ballroom looked stunning with its gold and silver theme, our company logo projected onto the ceiling in lights. The executive team was already mingling. Servers were passing champagne and the string quartet I'd hired was playing soft jazz. Everything was going according to plan. I needed to get Daniel's surprise gift from the presidential suite. It was a watch, a limited edition piece I'd been hunting for 6 months. The same model his late grandfather had worn, which Daniel had always dreamed of owning. I wanted to present it during my speech to show everyone how much I appreciated not just my business partner, but my life partner. The hotel had given us master key cards for the entire venue since we'd booked 3 floors. I slipped away from the pre-party preparations, took the main elevator to the top floor. The presidential suite was at the end of the hall, past the service elevator that the staff used for room service and maintenance. As I walked down that plush, carpeted hallway, I was thinking about my speech, about how I'd talk about Daniel's vision, his dedication, how he'd held my hand through every challenge. I was thinking about thanking Rachel for being my rock, my sister in everything but blood. I was planning to announce that we were finally ready to start our family, that the company was stable enough for us to take that next step. I had no idea that in less than 60 seconds, every word of that speech would become the most bitter irony of my life. The service elevator had glass panels on the sides, a design feature the hotel boasted about in their brochure. As I approached the presidential suite, I heard laughter. Not just any laughter, but that specific combination of sounds I knew so well. Daniel's deep chuckle mixed with Rachel's distinctive giggle. The same laugh I'd heard at 1,000 dinners, 100 girls' nights, countless moments throughout my life. I stopped walking. They were in the service elevator, and through the glass panel I saw them. Rachel was pressed against the wall, Daniel's hands in her hair, their mouths locked in a kiss that was anything but friendly. This wasn't a mistake, wasn't a moment of weakness. The way they moved together spoke of practice, of familiarity, of countless times before. My legs wouldn't move, my brain couldn't process, but somehow my hand knew what to do. It pulled out my phone, opened the camera and started recording. They broke apart, and that's when I saw it. The sapphire necklace around Rachel's neck. My sapphire necklace, the one Daniel had given me for our 5th anniversary, the one I thought I'd lost 3 months ago. I'd torn apart our house looking for it, cried for days thinking I'd been careless with something so precious. Rachel was wearing it like it belonged to her. Her fingers traced it as she smiled up at my husband. "After tonight's announcement, we won't have to hide anymore," Daniel said, his voice carrying through the elevator's ventilation grate. Rachel laughed that same laugh that had comforted me through every crisis of my life. I still can't believe Marina hasn't figured it out. 8 months and she's completely clueless. 8 months. They'd been doing this for 8 months. "The divorce papers are already drawn up," Daniel continued, straightening his tie, the tie I'd picked out for him that morning. "My lawyer says with the company restructuring we've planned, she won't be able to fight it. She'll be so shocked by the announcement tonight that she won't even see the divorce coming." "You're announcing her stepping back from the company?" Rachel asked, reapplying her lipstick. The shade looked familiar. It was mine from my desk drawer. "Better. I'm announcing a new partnership structure that essentially strips her voting power. She trusts me enough to sign anything I put in front of her. Then, once she's out of the picture professionally, the personal separation will be easy. Clean break." They were planning to take my company. The company I'd funded, built, bled for. Rachel adjusted the necklace. "She actually asked me to help her pick out baby names last week. Can you imagine? She's so desperate for a family she doesn't even realise her husband hasn't touched her in months." That hit harder than seeing the kiss. I'd been making excuses for our lack of intimacy, stress from work exhaustion from long hours. I'd been blaming myself, wondering if I'd become less attractive, less desirable. "The executive suite has been perfect for us," Daniel said, checking his watch, the watch I'd given him last Christmas. "No one questions when I'm there late. Marina thinks I'm working when really you're working on me." Rachel finished and they both laughed. My phone was still recording, my hand steady even as the rest of me shook. "I should feel guilty," Rachel said, but her tone suggested anything but guilt. "Marina's been my best friend since we were kids, but honestly, she's always been so perfect, so successful, little Miss 52%. It feels good to take something from her for once." "You're taking everything from her," Daniel corrected, pulling her close again. "Her husband, her company, her future. And the best part, she's going to stand up there tonight and give that touching speech about partnership and loyalty while we sit in the audience knowing the truth." "God, that speech," Rachel laughed. "She practiced it with me yesterday. All that garbage about building something together, about trust being the foundation of success." I almost felt bad for her. Almost. The elevator dinged. They were at the penthouse level. As the doors opened, Daniel said one more thing that made my blood turn to ice. "Make sure you're standing next to her during the toast. I want to see her face when I announce the restructuring. I want you to be the one to comfort her when her world falls apart." They stepped out, and the elevator doors closed. I stood in that hallway for a full minute, my phone still recording the empty elevator shaft. My marriage was a lie. My friendship was a betrayal. My company was under attack, and they'd planned for me to be humiliated in front of 500 people in less than 30 minutes. I could have collapsed, could have screamed, could have run after them and confronted them right there. Instead, I walked very calmly to the presidential suite, used my keycard, went inside and locked the door behind me. Then, and only then, did I allow myself 3 minutes to fall apart, 3 minutes to cry, to rage, to mourn the life I thought I had. Because after those 3 minutes were up, I had work to do. They wanted to destroy me publicly. They wanted to take everything I'd built. They wanted to humiliate me in front of everyone who mattered in our industry. Fine, but they'd forgotten one crucial detail. I wasn't just some trusting wife. I wasn't just a loyal friend. I was Marina Chen, the woman who'd built a $50 million company from nothing, the woman who'd negotiated with sharks and won, the woman who'd learned long ago that in business as in life you always need a backup plan, and I had exactly 27 minutes to destroy them both. The bathroom mirror in the presidential suite showed me a woman I didn't recognize. Mascara streaked down my cheeks, my carefully styled hair disheveled from running my hands through it. This wasn't the face of a CEO. This wasn't the face of a woman about to give an anniversary speech to 500 people, but it was the face of a woman who'd just discovered her entire life was built on lies. And more importantly, it was the face of a woman who was about to burn it all down. I splashed cold water on my face, watching the expensive makeup wash away. 3 minutes of crying was all I'd allowed myself. Now it was time to think. My phone still had the video. Crystal clear footage of my husband and best friend discussing their 8-month affair and their plan to steal my company. I uploaded it to 3 different cloud services, emailed it to my personal account, and sent a copy to someone I trusted more than anyone, my lawyer Patricia Stevenson. Patricia picked up on the second ring. "Marina, aren't you supposed to be at your party?" "Pat, I need you to watch something I'm sending you right now. And then I need you to tell me exactly what my options are." "We have 25 minutes. The sound of Patricia opening the video came through the phone. I heard her sharp intake of breath. Patricia had written our prenup. She knew exactly what this meant. "Marina, this triggers the infidelity clause. Complete forfeiture of all marital assets on his part. The company's shares revert to you entirely." "What about Rachel? She mentioned being part of the restructuring. I saw her consultant contract come through last week. Daniel had me fast-track it, but there's a morality clause. Any behavior that could damage the company's reputation voids the agreement immediately." Perfect. They'd hung themselves with their own rope. "Pat, I need you to do something for me. Can you freeze all company accounts that Daniel has access to? I can do it remotely right now. Marina, are you going to be okay?" "I'm going to be better than okay. I'm going to be spectacular." I hung up and opened my laptop. The beauty of being the marketing VP was that I had access to all our presentation systems. The video tribute I'd prepared for tonight was already loaded ready to play during my speech. It would only take a few modifications. My fingers flew across the keyboard. I'd built my career on being able to pivot quickly to turn crisis into opportunity. This was just another campaign, another message to craft. Only this time, the product I was selling was the truth. I found their emails in our company server. They hadn't even been careful. Messages going back 8 months using our corporate accounts to plan their affair. Photos from company trips where they'd clearly been together, receipts for hotels charged to company credit cards. They'd been so confident in my blindness that they'd left a digital trail a mile wide. Rachel had been sabotaging me in ways I was only now beginning to understand. Emails to potential clients suggesting I was difficult to work with, messages to other friends in our circle hinting that I was having mental health issues. She'd been isolating me, making herself indispensable while poisoning my other relationships. And Daniel had been slowly transferring assets, moving money between accounts, setting up shell companies. Everything just barely legal but unethical enough to destroy his reputation if it came to light. I called my assistant Jennifer. She'd been with me for 5 years, had seen me build this company presentation by presentation. "Mrs. Chen, is everything all right?" The speeches start in 20 minutes. "Jennifer, I need you to make a change to the lineup. I'm going first, before Daniel." "But Mr. Chen specifically said, Jennifer, who signs your paychecks. You do, Mrs. Chen. Then please make the change. And Jennifer, make sure security is posted at all exits during my speech. We might have some disruption." "Understood, Mrs. Chen." My next call was to Tom from IT. Tom owed me. I'd hired him when no one else would given him a chance when he'd been fresh out of prison for a minor hacking charge. He'd been our most loyal employee ever since. "Tom, I need a favor. No questions asked." "Anything, Mrs. Chen." "I'm sending you a new presentation file. I need it to replace the current one in the system, and I need you to make sure that once it starts playing, it can't be stopped, not even if someone pulls the plug." "Consider it done. Mrs. Chen, whatever's happening, I've got your back." I smiled for the first time since seeing that elevator. "I know you do, Tom." 15 minutes left. I opened my suitcase and pulled out the backup dress I always travelled with, a red designer number that screamed power and confidence. Daniel hated it when I wore red, said it was too attention-seeking. Tonight, I wanted all the attention. As I zipped up the dress, I thought about my mother. She'd passed 5 years ago, but her advice still echoed in my mind. "Marina," she'd said during my wedding planning. "Always have your own money, your own friends, and your own escape plan. Love with your whole heart, but keep your eyes wide open." I'd kept my eyes closed for too long, but they were wide open now. My phone buzzed with texts from board members. Patricia had been busy. She'd sent them all a preliminary report about the embezzlement along with documentation. The responses were immediate and unanimous, full support for whatever action I deemed necessary. I reapplied my makeup with steady hands. Warrior paint, my mother would have called it. Each stroke of mascara was armor. Each swipe of lipstick was ammunition. Looking in the mirror, I saw someone new. Not the trusting wife, not the loyal friend. I saw a CEO about to protect her empire. I saw a woman about to teach 2 people exactly what happened when they mistook kindness for weakness. My phone showed 10 minutes until speech time. I pulled up my social media accounts, scheduling posts to go live in exactly 15 minutes. The video, the emails, the receipts, everything. By the time I finished speaking, the entire tech world would know what Daniel Chen and Rachel Morrison had done. One final call. My doctor's office had left a voicemail earlier that I'd ignored in the party preparation chaos. I listened to it now, and despite everything, I laughed. The test was positive. I was 6 weeks pregnant. Daniel thought he was taking everything from me. He had no idea what he was about to lose. I picked up my purse, checked my reflection one more time, and headed for the door. The presidential suite had been meant for celebration, for toasting our success after the party. Daniel had probably planned to bring Rachel here later to celebrate their supposed victory. Instead, it had become my war room, the place where Marina Chen stopped being a victim and started being a warrior. The elevator ride down felt like descending into battle. Each floor that passed was another second closer to the destruction of everything I'd built with Daniel, everything I'd shared with Rachel. But sometimes you had to burn something down to build something better. As the elevator approached the ballroom floor, I thought about that other elevator, the one that had revealed the truth. In 30 minutes, these two elevators would bookend the most transformative hour of my life. The doors opened. I could hear the party, the laughter, the music. 500 people who had no idea they were about to witness corporate history. I stepped out, shoulders back, head high. I had 7 minutes to work the room before taking the stage. 7 minutes to be the loving wife and devoted friend one last time. Game time. The ballroom was everything I'd envisioned when I'd planned this party. Crystal chandeliers cast golden light over round tables, dressed in silver linens. Our company logo, something I'd designed myself in our garage 10 years ago, rotated slowly in projected light above the stage. The string quartet had switched to contemporary jazz, and servers in crisp uniforms wove through crowds of Silicon Valley's elite. I moved through the room like I was walking on water, every smile perfectly calibrated, every handshake firm and confident. This was my element. These were my people. I'd convinced half of them to invest in our company. The other half were competitors who'd tried to buy us out and failed. Marina, darling. Margaret Whitfield, CEO of the Valley's largest venture capital firm, caught my arm. You've outdone yourself. This is spectacular. Wait until you see the presentation, I told her, accepting air kisses. It's going to be unforgettable. She had no idea how right I was. I spotted Daniel near the bar, surrounded by investors. He was in his element, gesturing animatedly as he told some story. The same hands that had been in Rachel's hair 40 minutes ago were now holding a champagne flute. He caught my eye and winked. The same eyes that had looked at Rachel with desire now looked at me with fake affection. Rachel was by the dessert table chatting with my supposed friends. Women I'd introduced her to brought into our circle. She wore a black cocktail dress that I recognized. She'd borrowed it from my closet last month and never returned it. The sapphire necklace caught the light every time she moved, a $50,000 reminder of my blindness. 5 minutes to speeches, Jennifer announced over the microphone. Daniel started making his way toward me, his politician's smile in place. Behind him, I could see Rachel following, ready to play her part as the supportive best friend. "There's my beautiful wife," Daniel said loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. His arm went around my waist, pulling me close. He smelled like his cologne, mixed with Rachel's perfume. How had I never noticed before? "You look stunning," he whispered in my ear. "Is that a new dress?" "Something special for tonight," I replied, not pulling away. Let him think everything was normal. Rachel appeared at my other side, linking her arm through mine. "Marina, oh my God, this party is incredible. You're such a perfectionist." "Speaking of perfect," I said, my voice honey-sweet. "That necklace is gorgeous, Rachel. It looks so familiar." I felt her stiffen slightly. "Oh, this just something I picked up." "It suits you," I said. Sapphires are said to represent truth and wisdom. How appropriate for tonight. Daniel's hand tightened on my waist. Had he heard something in my tone? Let him wonder. Jennifer appeared with a microphone. "Mrs. Chen, we're ready for you." "I thought I was going second," Daniel said, his forehead creasing. "Change of plans, honey," I said, taking the microphone. "I have something special I want to share first." I walked toward the stage, feeling their eyes on my back. The crowd naturally turned toward me, conversations dying down. This was my superpower, commanding a room, making people want to listen. I'd sold this company to the world. Now I was about to sell them the truth. The lights dimmed, except for the spotlight on stage. I climbed the steps in my blood-red dress, the microphone steady in my hand. 500 faces looked up at me. Phones came out to record, which was perfect. I wanted this documented from every angle. "Good evening, everyone." I began, my voice clear and strong. 10 years ago, Daniel and I started this company in a garage with nothing but a laptop and a dream. Today, we're worth $50 million. Applause rippled through the crowd. Daniel raised his glass from his position near the stage, the proud husband. Rachel stood beside him, the devoted friend. But success isn't just about numbers, I continued. It's about the partnerships we build, the trust we establish, the people who stand by us through everything. More applause. A few people wiped away tears. I was known for my emotional speeches, my ability to connect with an audience. Tonight, I want to share something special with all of you, a video tribute to the partnerships that built this company. The screen behind me lit up. The first part was exactly what they expected footage of Daniel and me through the years. Our first office, our first big sale, our wedding day, which several people in the audience had attended. Partnership requires trust, my voice narrated over the images. It requires honesty. It requires loyalty. Then the screen changed. But sometimes, I said, as the elevator footage began to play, partnerships evolve in unexpected ways. The ballroom went silent. On the massive screen in high definition, Daniel and Rachel were kissing in the elevator. The audio was crystal clear, every word of their conversation echoing through the speakers Tom had ensured couldn't be muted. 8 months, and she's completely clueless. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Someone dropped a champagne glass. The sound of shattering crystal punctuated Rachel's recorded voice talking about taking everything from me. I stood at the microphone calm as a lake while chaos erupted behind me. The divorce papers are already drawn up. Daniel was pushing through the crowd, trying to get to the stage, to the tech booth, to anywhere he could stop this. Security stepped smoothly into his path, not aggressively, just present. He couldn't make a scene without looking worse. Rachel was frozen by the dessert table, her face white enough to match the tablecloth. The video kept playing. Their plan to restructure the company. Their admission of using the executive suite for their affair. Rachel's mockery of my desire for children. She's so desperate for a family she doesn't even realize her husband hasn't touched her in months. Women in the audience were covering their mouths. Men were looking at Daniel with disgust. Margaret Whitfield had her phone out, no doubt texting her entire board. When the video ended, I spoke into the silence. I discovered this 45 minutes ago, I said conversationally, as if discussing quarterly reports. And while my first instinct was devastation, my second was determination. You see, Daniel forgot a crucial detail in his restructuring plans. I clicked the presentation remote. Legal documents appeared on screen. I own 52% of this company. My grandmother's inheritance invested wisely. Daniel owns 30%. The board owns the rest. Another click. The prenuptial agreement appeared with the infidelity clause highlighted. Our prenup, which Daniel insisted on to protect his assets, includes a comprehensive infidelity clause. In the event of proven adultery, the cheating party forfeits all marital assets and any claim to shared business ventures. Daniel had made it to the edge of the stage. Marina, please, we should discuss this privately. Like you discussed it privately in that elevator, I asked pleasantly. The microphone picked up every word. Or privately in our executive suite, which, by the way, I clicked again, showing credit card statements. You've been charging to the company account. That's embezzlement, Daniel. A federal crime. The security team had moved closer to Daniel, not my security. These were FBI agents Patricia had called. White-collar crime was their specialty. As for you, Rachel, I turned to where she stood, tears streaming down her face. Your consultant contract, which Daniel had expedited last week, contains a morality clause. Your behavior has certainly damaged our company's reputation. Wouldn't you say? She was shaking her head, mouth opening and closing like a fish. Effective immediately, I announced Daniel Chen is terminated as CEO of this company for embezzlement and breach of fiduciary duty. The board has already voted. I clicked one more time. The vote was unanimous. Rachel Morrison's consultant contract is void, and any assets acquired through illegal use of company funds will be recovered through legal action. You can't do this, Daniel shouted, his composure finally cracking. I built this company. We built this company. I corrected. But I funded it. I marketed it. I made it what it is today. And I will continue to lead it into the future. I looked out at the crowd at the mix of shock, admiration, and respect on their faces. Now I have one more announcement. Something I just learned today, actually. I placed a hand on my stomach. I am 6 weeks pregnant, and thanks to the evidence you've all witnessed tonight, I'll be raising this child with full custody and the values of honesty and integrity that this company was supposedly built on. The room exploded. Half in applause, half in chaos. The FBI agents were approaching Daniel. Rachel had collapsed into a chair. Cameras were flashing, phones were recording, and tomorrow this would be all over Silicon Valley. But I wasn't done. To our investors, our partners, our clients, I said, raising my voice over the noise, this company will continue to thrive. We've removed a cancer tonight, not destroyed the body. I promise you that our best days are ahead of us. Margaret Whitfield started clapping. Then another investor joined, another. Soon half the room was giving me a standing ovation, while the other half watched Daniel being escorted out by federal agents. Thank you all for coming, I said, setting down the microphone. Please enjoy the rest of your evening. The bar is open, and I think we all need a drink. Except me, of course. I touched my stomach again. I'll be toasting with sparkling water. I walked off the stage head high as the quartet started playing again. Some kind of victory march that Jennifer must have requested. Behind me, the screen still showed the final slide of my presentation, the company logo with one word underneath it: unbreakable. The presidential suite was quiet now, a stark contrast to the chaos I'd left behind in the ballroom. Jennifer had brought me sparkling water and a plate of food I couldn't eat. Patricia sat across from me, legal documents spread across the coffee table. My phone hadn't stopped buzzing for the past hour. The FBI has Daniel in custody, Patricia reported, scrolling through her tablet. The embezzlement charges alone could mean 5 years. Add in fraud, conspiracy to commit corporate theft and breach of fiduciary duty, he's looking at a decade minimum. What about Rachel? I asked, though her name tasted bitter. Her husband called me. Apparently, he's been suspicious for months. He's filing for divorce and wants to thank you for providing the evidence he needed. She's also facing charges for conspiracy and receiving stolen goods, that necklace being Exhibit A. The necklace, $50,000 of sapphires that had once symbolized our love, now evidence in a federal case. There was poetry in that somewhere. Jennifer knocked and entered. Mrs. Chen, the board is here. 7 members of our board of directors filed in their faces a mix of concern and admiration. Margaret Whitfield led them, her silver hair perfect, despite the evening's drama. Marina, she began, that was either the bravest or most insane thing I've ever witnessed. Maybe both, I admitted. The stock price, Robert Kim, our CFO, interjected, has actually gone up in after-hours trading. Investors are calling you a hero. The press is having a field day with the story of a CEO who refused to be a victim. What about our clients? I asked. 3 major contracts have already come in, Margaret said. Companies want to work with someone who has that kind of integrity and courage. Marina, you just turned a personal disaster into a corporate triumph. My phone rang. The caller ID showed my sister Emma from Seattle. I need to take this, I said, stepping onto the balcony. Marina, Emma's voice was breathless. I just saw everything online. Are you okay? I'm at the airport. I'll be there in 2 hours. I'm okay, I said, and surprisingly, I meant it. I'm actually better than okay. How can you be better? Your husband and best friend are finally showing their true colours, I finished. Emma, I've been living a lie for who knows how long, maybe the whole marriage. At least now I know the truth. And the baby, is that real? I touched my stomach again. Very real. 6 weeks, I found out today. Marina, I'm so proud of you. Mum would be too. You didn't let them break you. After Emma, the calls kept coming. My brother from Boston, cousins from California, college friends who'd seen the viral videos. Each one offered support, shared their shock, expressed their admiration. Daniel's parents called. That was harder. Marina. His mother's voice was cold. We're ashamed of our son. We raised him better than this. The baby, it's still our grandchild. We hope you'll allow us to be part of its life despite Daniel's actions. Of course, I said, because the baby deserved grandparents who loved them. This isn't the child's fault. We're cutting him off, his father added. Completely. What he did to you, to the company you built together, it's unforgivable. 3 hours had passed since the speech. The party downstairs had evolved into something else. Jennifer reported that people weren't leaving. Instead, they were networking, discussing the events, and apparently several major deals were being struck. My public execution of Daniel had turned into Silicon Valley's event of the year. Rachel's husband, Stephen, arrived at the suite. He was a quiet man, an architect who'd always seemed overshadowed by his vivacious wife. Now he looked relieved. I knew, he said simply. Not about Daniel specifically, but I knew she was cheating. She'd become cruel in the last few months, distant, like she was already gone. I'm sorry, I said, meaning it. We were both victims here. Don't be. You set us both free tonight. I've been miserable for years, but too afraid to leave. Now I can start over. He left, and I wondered about that. Starting over. I was 34, pregnant, and about to be divorced. But I was also the sole CEO of a $50 million company, surrounded by people who actually cared about me and free from toxic relationships I hadn't even known were poisoning me. My phone showed 47 missed calls from Daniel, 1 voicemail from Rachel. I listened to it out of morbid curiosity. Marina, please. Her voice was wrecked. I'm sorry. I don't know what happened. It started as nothing, just attraction, and then it spiraled. I was jealous of you. Everything came so easy to you. The company, the marriage, the success. I wanted what you had. I wanted to be you. Please, please call me back. I deleted it. Then I blocked her number. Tom from IT knocked. Mrs. Chen, I have something you should see. He handed me a tablet showing our company's social media. The followers had tripled in 3 hours. Comments poured in, 90% supportive. Women especially were rallying around me, sharing their own stories of betrayal and triumph. You've become a symbol, Tom said, of strength, of not letting them win. I just did what I had to do, I said. No, he disagreed. You did what most people wish they could do. You stood up, spoke truth, and refused to be a victim. That's rare. As midnight approached the hotel, manager appeared. Mrs. Chen, we've had requests from 3 major news outlets for interviews. The Today Show wants you for tomorrow morning. Tell them no, I said. I've said everything I needed to say tonight. The suite slowly emptied until it was just me and Jennifer. She'd been with me through the entire evening, my silent support system. You should go home, I told her. Are you sure you want to be alone? I looked around the suite. The space that was supposed to be for celebration had become something else entirely, a place of endings and beginnings. I'm not alone, I said, hand on my stomach. And for the first time in months, maybe years, I'm exactly where I need to be. Jennifer hugged me, a breach of our usual professional protocol that felt perfect for tonight. After she left, I stood on the balcony looking out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, Daniel was in federal custody. Rachel was probably packing her things, preparing to leave town. The life I'd known was over, but as I stood there, feeling the life growing inside me, watching the city pulse with possibility, I realized something. They hadn't taken anything from me. They'd given me something precious: freedom. Freedom from lies, from false love, from toxic friendship. Tomorrow would bring lawyers, divorce papers, and federal investigations. There would be hard days ahead, moments of grief for the life I'd thought I had. But tonight, in this moment, I was unbreakable. My phone buzzed one more time, a text from an unknown number. I almost deleted it, but something made me look. Marina, you don't know me, but I was at your party tonight. My husband cheated with my sister last year. I stayed quiet, kept the peace, let them win. Watching you tonight gave me the courage to finally leave. Thank you for showing me that we don't have to accept betrayal, that we can fight back. You saved more than just yourself tonight. You saved all of us who needed to see that strength. I screenshot the message. This stranger had understood what tonight really meant. It wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about destruction. It was about refusing to be diminished by people who didn't deserve us. 6 months later, I stood in the conference room of our new headquarters. The company had doubled in value since that night, reaching $100 million valuation. The tech world had embraced our story, our comeback, our refusal to let scandal define us. Daniel was serving 7 years in federal prison. The embezzlement charges had stuck along with fraud and conspiracy. His letters from prison went straight to my lawyer unread. He'd lost everything: his freedom, his reputation, his future in tech. The golden boy of Silicon Valley had become its cautionary tale. Rachel had fled to her hometown in Ohio. Her husband had taken everything in their divorce, using my evidence to prove adultery and conspiracy. She'd tried to start over, but the internet never forgets. Every job application, every new relationship, they all eventually found the video. She'd posted a public apology 3 months ago that no one believed. Her Instagram, once filled with pictures of our friendship, was now private and empty. I, on the other hand, was thriving. My daughter Victoria had been born 2 weeks ago. The name meant victory, and it fit perfectly. She had my eyes and thankfully nothing of Daniel's features that I could see yet. The nursery I'd built in my new apartment was bright and beautiful, overlooking the bay. Emma had moved from Seattle to help me. She'd taken a job at a local firm and spent evenings helping with Victoria. Our bond, always strong, had become unbreakable. Blood was truly thicker than whatever Rachel and I had shared. The company had transformed too. I'd implemented new policies about transparency and ethics. We'd become known as the tech company that valued integrity over everything. Our employee satisfaction was at an all-time high. Turns out, people wanted to work for someone who stood for something. I'd also started a mentorship program for women in tech who'd faced workplace betrayal or harassment. Once a month, we gathered to share stories and strategies. The woman who'd texted me that night had become a regular attendee. She'd left her cheating husband and started her own company. We were all rising together. Dating was off the table for now, maybe forever. Trust once shattered so completely wasn't easily rebuilt, but I'd found something better than romantic love. I'd found self-love, self-respect, and the knowledge that I could survive anything. My mother's grave had fresh flowers every week. I'd visit with Victoria, telling her about her grandmother, about strength, about the woman who'd raised me to be unbreakable even when I didn't know it yet. Your grandmother would have loved you, I whispered to Victoria during one visit. She would have been so proud that we survived, that we thrived, that we didn't let them win. The speaking requests hadn't stopped. Universities wanted me to talk to their business students. Women's conferences wanted my story. I'd turned most of them down, but I'd accepted one, a keynote, at the Global Women in Business Summit. Standing on that stage in front of 3,000 women, I told them the whole story. Not just the betrayal, but the aftermath. The nights I'd cried myself to sleep. The moments I'd wondered if I'd done the right thing. The therapy sessions where I'd processed the loss of 2 people I'd loved. Betrayal doesn't make you stronger, I told them. That's a myth. Betrayal breaks you, but it's what you do with the broken pieces that matters. You can stay shattered or you can build something new, something better, something entirely yours. The standing ovation lasted 5 minutes, but the real victory wasn't the applause or the success. It was smaller moments. Victoria's first smile, Emma bringing me coffee exactly how I liked it. The team at work celebrating a new contract. The simple peace of going to bed, knowing everyone in my life was there by choice and truth, not deception. Daniel's parents had stayed true to their word. They visited Victoria weekly, bringing gifts and love, untainted by their son's actions. They'd even testified against him at trial, stating that he'd brought shame to their family name. His father had said something that stayed with me. "We raised him with values. Somewhere we failed, but we won't fail our granddaughter." One evening, as I was nursing Victoria, my phone rang. It was Margaret Whitfield. "Marina, I have a proposition. We're looking at acquiring Comptech Solutions. It would triple your company's value, but it's a hostile takeover situation. Messy, complicated, the kind of thing that requires someone who isn't afraid of a fight." "Send me the files," I said, already intrigued. "Marina, there's something else. The CEO of Comptech, he's Daniel's former business partner, the one who backed out of your original startup. He's been bad-mouthing you since the scandal, saying you're unstable, that the company will fail without Daniel." I laughed, startling Victoria. "Then he's about to learn the same lesson Daniel did. Underestimating me is a costly mistake." The acquisition took 3 months. It was brutal, involving late-night strategic maneuvers and more than one public confrontation. But in the end, I won. I always won now, because I'd learned to fight without conscience or compromise when it came to business. The day we signed the papers, adding another 100 million to our valuation, I got one last communication from Daniel, a letter that had somehow made it past my lawyer's screening. "Marina," it read, "I hear about your successes even in here. Every triumph of yours is a reminder of what I lost. Not the company or the money, but you, the woman who built empires and raised armies with just her voice. I threw away the best thing in my life for someone who abandoned me the second things got hard. Rachel never writes, never visits. But you're raising our daughter, running our company, and conquering the world. I'm proud of you, even though I have no right to be. I'm sorry, even though it means nothing. You were always the stronger one. I just couldn't stand being in your shadow. Now, I'm in nobody's shadow, just darkness. Forever, Daniel." I burned the letter. His words meant nothing. His pride meant nothing. His regret meant nothing. He'd made his choices, and now he lived with them. Victoria gurgled in her crib, and I picked her up, holding her close. She would grow up knowing her worth wasn't determined by anyone else's inability to see it. She would never question her value because someone else chose to betray her. She would be raised by a mother who'd been broken and rebuilt herself into something magnificent. My empire, both personal and professional, was built on truth now. No lies, no deception, no false foundations. It was harder this way, but it was real. Every success was mine. Every achievement was earned. Every relationship was genuine. The elevator in our new building was glass on all sides. I'd insisted on it. No hiding, no secrets, no dark corners for betrayal. Everything in the light. Everything visible. Some people found it uncomfortable. I found it liberating as I stood in that transparent elevator, rising to the top floor of the building I'd bought with my own success, holding my daughter, who would inherit an empire built on integrity. I thought about that other elevator 6 months ago, the one that had revealed the truth and set me free. They'd kissed in an elevator, going up thinking they were rising together. They'd fallen separately, devastatingly, completely. But I'd taken the stairs, each step deliberate and difficult, and I'd climbed higher than any elevator could have taken me. "You see that, Victoria?" I whispered to my daughter as we looked out at the city below. All of this came from the worst day of Mommy's life. Sometimes the things that break us are just making room for something better to grow. She cooed, her tiny hand wrapping around my finger with surprising strength, like mother, like daughter, unbreakable. The sun set over San Francisco Bay, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. Somewhere Daniel sat in a cell watching the same sunset through bars. Somewhere Rachel was learning that you can't build a life on someone else's ruins. And here I stood in my glass elevator, in my glass tower, visible and victorious. The best revenge wasn't the public humiliation, though that had been satisfying. It wasn't the financial victory or the professional triumph. The best revenge was this being genuinely, completely, authentically happy without them. Building a life so beautiful, so successful, so full of real love, that their betrayal became nothing more than a footnote in my story. My phone buzzed with a text from Emma. "Dinner's ready when you get home. Your favourite. And wine for me, juice for you. Love you both." Home. Real home with real family, with real love. I smiled, kissing Victoria's forehead. "Let's go home, baby girl. Aunt Emma's cooking, and she only burns things half the time now." As the elevator descended, I thought about everyone who'd stood in this building today. Employees who trusted me, partners who respected me, investors who believed in me, not because I was Daniel's wife or Rachel's friend, but because I was Marina Chen's CEO, mother survivor, and thriver. I'd caught my husband kissing my best friend in an elevator. 30 minutes later, I'd destroyed them both. But more importantly, in the months that followed, I'd built something they could never touch, never taint, never take away. I'd built myself, and that was the greatest revenge of all. So, to anyone watching who's been betrayed, who's been broken, who's been told they're not enough, you are. You're enough on your own. Your value doesn't decrease based on someone's inability to see it. And sometimes, just sometimes, the elevator that takes you down is just preparing you for the climb of your life. Take the stairs. They're harder, but the view from the top is worth every single step. Thank you for listening to my story. If you've ever faced betrayal and came out stronger, leave a comment below. What was your turning point? When did you realize you were going to be okay? Please like this video if it resonated with you, subscribe for more stories of triumph over betrayal, and share this with someone who needs to hear that they're stronger than they know. Remember, we rise by lifting others, and your story might be exactly what someone needs to hear today. Thank you for being part of this journey with me, and remember, you're not broken, you're just building. Much love to all of you warriors out there.